Fighting out of the blue corner, standing with trainer Pedro Diaz, wearing green with white, officially weighing in at 121 1/2 pounds. A perfect professional record consisting of 11 fights, 11 victories, including 8 knockouts. Originally from Cuba, but now living, training, and fighting out of Miami, Florida, USA, the two-time world amateur champion, two-time Olympic gold medal champion, and now the reigning, defending WBA super bantamweight champion of the world.
The Modern Martial Artist is switching to YouTube memberships, putting all of our exclusive perks in one place for our most important sponsor, you. We need your support to continue creating content about the sports we love, and that's why we're excited to offer even more through YouTube memberships. The team is bringing you early video access and 2 exclusives each month. To start, we've got the growth of BKFC and a close look at Khamzat's dominating style. So, if you like what we do and want to see more, become a channel member today.
Guillermo Rigondeaux has one of the most unique styles in boxing today. He's a powerful southpaw whose defense is reminiscent of Floyd Mayweather's, and whose offense is an animal all of its own. Rigondeaux has been known to practice his punches in the air before connecting with the same combination. This has led some to believe that Rigo is rehearsing his punches, or even calling a punch in the same way that Babe Ruth used to call his home runs. While a probing rear hand to measure distance is nothing unusual for a southpaw, throwing slow motion combinations far away from your opponent is something else entirely. But the truth is that Rigondeaux is not measuring where his opponent is, he's measuring where they're about to be. And he knows that's where they'll be because of the elaborate trap that he set for them. This is possible because of Rigondeaux's mastery of 3 important elements in boxing: distance, timing, and drawing. Rigo stays at the perfect distance to force his opponents to take a large step forward if they want to connect. While his opponents must reach, Rigo is already perfectly balanced, with his punch loaded up and waiting. All he needs to do is shut the trap. Of course, this wouldn't be possible without Rigo's ability to draw punches. Drawing is when a fighter tries to entice his opponent to attack by leaving a specific opening, so that he can then counterattack. Many great fighters through history mastered this ability, and Rigo does this masterfully as well, but goes one step further than most. Rigondeaux gives his opponent a specific slow motion punch off of which to counter. The genius of this is that Rigo knows the exact punches that his opponent are most likely to throw in response, as he knows the specific area in which he's left himself open. And he also knows when it's coming. Rigo's timing, particularly his tempo, stands out as one of the most consistent elements of his style. His methodical, consistent pace lulls his opponent into a false sense of comfort. He knows when the punch is coming because he knows precisely when he's intentionally left himself open. He will then triple his speed mid-punch, turning a slow, probing strike into a devastating blow. So to recap, Rigo forces his opponents to come to him by establishing distance, gives them a specific opening to draw a punch, and only leaves a small but consistent window of time in which that opening appears. When his competitor takes the bait, he slips and beats him to the punch. What looks like magic is actually skill developed over years of hard work practicing the fundamentals of distance, tempo, and drawing. There's a lot more to Rigondeaux than this rarely used technique. He has excellent defense, an insane ability to alter angles mid-combination, and a name no 2 boxing commentators can seem to agree on how to pronounce. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? This Saturday, Vasyl Lomachenko will face Guillermo Rigondeaux inside the squared circle, and 2 of the best fighters of our generation will put their reputations on the line. Even though they're both southpaws, their styles are polar opposites in almost every way, and each is going to try to draw the other into their kind of fight. So let's take a look at how the Matrix and the Jackal might try to outclass each other. Lomachenko's entire style is built on deception. He keeps his opponents guessing with head movement, feints, and broken rhythm. He prefers to have his opponent shelled up in a tight guard before he gets close, and he uses an insanely high volume of punches to encourage them to do this. He mixes soft, pitter-patter punches in with powerful blows to keep them off guard, and reactive to every punch. He likes to enter into close range by using his jab to trap, push, pull, or frame off of his opponent's arms. This creates openings and lessens the chance of a counter. Once he's in range, Lomachenko moves into the second phase of his attack, sabotage. Lomachenko's goal is to destroy his opponent's balance, vision, and ability to counter, and he often succeeds at inhibiting all three at the same time. He'll pin his opponent's arms in place so they can't counter, pull down their guard to create new openings, use his glove or forearm to keep them in the dark, and frame against their neck to destroy their balance and power. If all goes as planned, his opponent ends up unclear where Lomachenko is, and probably couldn't do anything even if he knew. Once Lomachenko has secured a clear advantage, he will change angles to exit or pursue a new line of attack. He's even gone so far as to leave his hand in place in front of his opponent's guard so they think he's still there, before attacking from the side, much like a matador does with a bull. But getting close enough to use any of these techniques on Rigondeaux may prove challenging, to say the least. Rigondeaux's style is the exact opposite, built around keeping his opponent at arm's length and maintaining a slow, steady tempo. His strategy is to frustrate his opponents until they make a mistake, overcommitting to an attack so that he can land one of his devastating counters. In this way, Rigondeaux is stylistically similar to Floyd Mayweather, but unlike Mayweather, Rigondeaux adds to his opponent's sense of urgency by suddenly rushing in with devastating punches that can break their jaws and knock them out cold. The fact Lomachenko is a fellow southpaw somewhat limits the effectiveness of Rigondeaux's powerful left hand, as Lomachenko's lead arm provides him some protection, just like when two orthodox opponents fight. But Rigondeaux has had a lot of success going over a southpaw's guard to get at their jaw, or going underneath it to target their liver. If Lomachenko falls victim to one of Rigondeaux's overpowered punches, the fight could end early. But it's unlikely Lomachenko stays in place long enough to let that happen. He's constantly moving, changing his angle, distance, and head slot almost every single punch. This means that Rigondeaux's best chance at ending the fight is to set up one of his powerful counters, and he does this by utilizing several lines of defense. He keeps a closed, narrow stance with few openings, and uses his lead arm like a shield, blocking punches with his forearm or elbow. As mentioned before, Lomachenko likes to get inside his opponent's guard and destroy their ability to counter, but this strategy could be poison when it comes to Rigondeaux, who's known for his counter punches. It will be hard to intimidate Rigondeaux into shelling up, and if Lomachenko tries to wade in and deflect punches off of his arm, he may find himself the victim of one of Rigondeaux's guard-splitting uppercuts. Rigondeaux's balance and speed allow him to find a path through his opponent's guard at angles that would be impossible for most other fighters, and Lomachenko has shown himself to be susceptible to well-placed uppercuts before. If Lomachenko can get in deep and avoid getting countered, he still has to deal with Rigondeaux's upper body movement and pivots. But this is a far better scenario for Lomachenko than many may think. Like Mayweather, Rigondeaux likes to lean back, duck, and pivot to change the angle. His low, wide stance allows him to maintain a stable base and hold his guard while his opponent loses their balance. But this technique may turn into a major problem for Rigondeaux. Lomachenko has shown himself to be very adept at intercepting a retreating opponent, and Rigondeaux has shown himself to be very susceptible to getting caught in this exact same situation. In this clip, a clever orthodox opponent shifts into southpaw position to follow Rigondeaux and lands a beautiful knockdown. This also brings up another of Rigondeaux's defensive problems. While he's fairly close in most ways to Mayweather defensively, he lacks the same expertise in regards to the Philly shell guard. The Philly shell can help beat an opponent to the punch because the hands are already closer to the center line. But it has a particular weakness, in that it will always leave one giant opening on the opponent's chin or jaw. It requires perfect timing to turn into a more open stance and shield the side of your head while in close range. Rigondeaux has let some big punches get through his guard in this situation before, stunning him and leaving him open to a knockdown just a few seconds later. In this regard, Rigondeaux could be said to be over-reliant on crouching, something Lomachenko would almost certainly take advantage of by framing off of his neck. But if Lomachenko tries to glide in recklessly, he may find his own head pulled down into Rigondeaux's punches. So this fight will most likely be dictated by distance. Assuming Lomachenko can withstand Rigondeaux's powerful but sporadic offense, the fight will hinge on if Lomachenko can get close enough to use as many guard manipulation techniques. But if Rigondeaux can keep Lomachenko at arm's length, forcing him to overcommit so that he can counter, he'll be in total control of the fight. If Lomachenko wants to win, he needs to disguise his movement through feints, draws, and broken rhythm. He may have success changing positions every time Rigondeaux gets settled, and attacking him as he turns, like we see Sugar Ray Leonard do here. But Rigondeaux is very comfortable pivoting on his punches to follow his opponents, so this is a tall order. Lomachenko may also need to avoid manipulating Rigondeaux's lead hand to enter, since Rigondeaux uses it to gauge the intentions of his opponents. For Rigondeaux's part, if he can keep Lomachenko at arm's length, forcing him to overcommit so he can counter, he'll be in total control of the fight. But to do that, he needs to be able to read Lomachenko's movement, even if he suddenly changes his rhythm and line of attack. In the end, this is anyone's fight to win or lose. We could be looking at 12 technical rounds of boxing, a first round knockout, or an all-out war. But whatever happens, this Saturday we get to see two of the greatest fighters in the world step into the ring and put it all on the line. Not because they need to, but because they can. And in boxing today, that's something truly incredible. The fight between Vasyl Lomachenko and Guillermo Rigondeaux was shocking. Lomachenko dismantled an undefeated champion widely considered one of the greatest of all time, making him quit on his stool. While the ending was disappointing, there were a lot of very high-level techniques that Lomachenko employed incredibly well throughout the fight. So let's take a look at how Lomachenko absolutely destroyed one of the greatest defenses in boxing, and then quickly examine why Rigondeaux decided to say, no mas. Rigondeaux's style is built around keeping his opponents at arm's length and maintaining a slow, steady tempo so that he can force his opponents to overreach and then counter them. In order for Lomachenko to take control of the fight, he needed to dictate the distance and pace. And Lomachenko pulled this off the very first round. He began by disrupting Rigondeaux's footwork. Every time Rigondeaux got settled in place to set up an exchange, Lomachenko immediately circled away and changed angles. Notice how Lomachenko moves away every time Rigondeaux sinks down onto his lead leg. By taking away his ability to ground himself, Lomachenko took away Rigondeaux's power and balance. Once Lomachenko had disrupted Rigondeaux's footwork, he began dismantling one of his best tools, his lead right hand. Rigondeaux keeps a closed, narrow stance with few openings, and uses his lead arm like a shield, blocking punches with his forearm or elbow. He uses tactile senses to gauge the intentions of his opponents and set up his counters. But Lomachenko took away Rigondeaux's attempt at lead hand control using his own lead hand. He would feint high and low and circle and deflect Rigondeaux's arm like a fencer. He would throw multiple jabs before changing position to repeat the process again. Lomachenko was now effectively able to get close to Rigondeaux and fight at his preferred range. It had taken him less than a round to accomplish what no other boxer had before. And woven through all of these techniques was Lomachenko's use of broken rhythm. Once Lomachenko had taken away Rigondeaux's footwork and lead hand control, he neutralized Rigondeaux's second line of defense, his upper body movement. Like Mayweather, Rigondeaux likes to lean back, duck, and pivot to change the angle. The technique is a great way to stay in the center of the ring and avoid getting caught on the ropes. But his over-reliance on this defensive maneuver turned into a major problem for Rigondeaux. Lomachenko's footwork allows him to easily follow a pivoting opponent, and he took advantage of Rigondeaux's low crouch by framing off of his shoulders. Lomachenko is an expert at manipulating his opponent's guard at close range. His goal is to destroy his opponent's balance, vision, and ability to counter. He'll pin his opponent's arms in place, pull down their guard to create new openings, use his glove or forearm to keep them in the dark, and frame against their neck to destroy their balance and power. Notice how Lomachenko moves in and immediately pins both of Rigondeaux's arms and leans his weight on him. When Rigondeaux tried to lean back instead of crouch and pivot, Lomachenko simply tracked his head movement with jabs. Rigondeaux did get off one good attempt at a powerful left hook that Lomachenko narrowly ducked at the end of the round. But Lomachenko wouldn't let himself get into this position again for the duration of the fight. Once again, Lomachenko managed all of this during the first round of the fight, and it would continue the same way for the rest of the match, with Lomachenko getting more and more comfortable ramping up the pace, and Rigondeaux's only adjustment made being to clinch almost every exchange. In the end, Rigondeaux said he was unable to continue. It's understandable that Rigondeaux quit, but it's strange he quit with so few adjustments. repeating the same defunct techniques that had gotten him punished before for several more rounds, and throwing very few shots himself. There are a lot of questions that haven't yet been answered, and may never be. It remains a mystery how badly Rigondeaux's hand was hurt, with some questioning if it was hurt at all. Looking back through the footage, it's hard to find anything that could have damaged it heavily. It's also an odd precedent to quit over a hand injury in a championship fight. While the health of a fighter should always be of utmost importance, there are certain moments that are so critical to the sport and to the fighter's legacy that many have weathered through, and even gone on to victory, with Lomachenko himself being one of these fighters. While it's sad that such a great boxer has most likely had his career come to an end in this manner, it's truly inspiring to see Lomachenko continue to grow and improve. I'm really looking to see his upcoming fights and what the future has in store for him.